Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. I'm John Garber from Flying Chimp Media, and I have a fantastic guest today. He is Broward attorney David Strauss from the Strauss Law Firm. David, good morning.
Good morning, Jonathan. Good morning to any viewers.
David has a great subject he's going to dive into with us today, which is the top 3 things everyone needs to know if they're having trouble paying their mortgage or just flat out can't pay their mortgage. Some people are panicking. I think a lot of people are panicking. If they're not in crisis right now, David, they're seeing a personal financial crisis like just over the hill. So can you walk us through the 3 things that any homeowner, condo, etc. Needs to know if they're having trouble paying that mortgage?
Yes, very much. Very much love to help people with that problem because it's a very common problem right now. So many people furloughed, so many people's income has dropped to a fraction, and a lot of people are unfortunately, sorry?
Yeah, first, can you just take a second and give us a quick little bio background about the Strauss Law Firm and what
Certainly.
your areas are so people know where this is coming from?
Absolutely, you bet. I've been practicing as a litigation attorney for over 25 years, 10 years up in New York, and just over 15 years in South Florida. My office is in Fort Lauderdale, but we serve the entire state of Florida, mainly the Tri-County area, but really anywhere in the state of Florida in the foreclosure realm. That's one of the things we do is defend people in foreclosure. We help them get loan modifications to keep their properties. We give them assistance to get short sales done if they decide they don't want to keep their property. And that's the topic that really concerns this segment, but we also are a commercial litigation firm, which is a much broader practice, just for general knowledge.
Right. So you're seeing people with mortgage challenges. I'll use that broad category. You're seeing people with mortgage challenges almost every day. What are those top 3 things that they would need to know if they're really facing trouble right now during the COVID shutdown?
Well, thank you. Number one, and it's a big one that has a lot of misconceptions out there, is the governor signed an order that effectively stays all foreclosures and evictions for 45 days. Now, that's going to run approximately a month from now. On May 18th, the floodgates can open back up again. But the big misconception people don't understand is just because your bank can't sue you for foreclosure does not mean that they cannot hold you in default, accelerate all of your future payments that would come due on the mortgage, and then they're not required to reinstate the loan, which means that they could sue you for foreclosure on May 18th, and unless they're willing to reinstate the loan, and unless you also have the funds to reinstate the loan, and most people who are in that position won't, then they're not going to have any defense to the foreclosure, and they'll need a capable attorney who can help them drag it out. But ultimately, they might lose their property. So the number one important thing to know is that the governor's moratorium on foreclosures does not in any way suspend anyone's obligation to pay on their mortgages.
Okay.
The number 2, and this is really the most important thing to know for everyone, and it's a frustrating one, and that is communication. Communication is the most important thing people need to understand, and it's hell right now. Trying to get through to your lender on the phone is going to be extremely frustrating. Many of them have set up COVID-19 relief hotlines. It doesn't matter how they approach it, they're going to be backed up. So my recommendation is to call at different times of day. Be persistent and be patient. Nothing's going to change in the next 30 days. You'll eventually get through and see what your lender is willing to consider. Some of them will tell you nothing. Many of them will tell you, oh, don't worry, we have a 90-day moratorium. Well, find out what that means.
Right.
Because if they're going to give you a forbearance for 90 days, but then on the 91st day, you owe those 3 months of mortgage as a balloon on top of your regular monthly payment, you're setting yourself up for foreclosure.
Sure.
And if that's your only option, that's your only option. I just want people to understand that if they're saying they'll forbear for 90 days, get the details. That's where the devil's sleeping. Gotta know what that really means.
That's a question I have because I've seen people talking on social media saying, oh, I've got a forbearance and what, and you're like, that becomes a 4-month balloon payment. How many people can make 4 months payments at one time?
If
Very
it's someone
few.
who's already having trouble paying their mortgage, none of them are going to be
None
able
of
to
them.
pay it.
If you don't have a problem paying 4 months at one time, this video probably isn't about you. But
Right.
so watch out for that. That a forbearance of 6 months, 90 days, whatever they're giving you, is not
When are
great.
you going to have to pay the arrears? That's what you need to know.
It's
And there
not
are
great.
two other ways they can do it. I'm sorry, Jonathan.
Yeah, it's not grace. It's not delaying it and putting 3 months at the end of your term. It's stacking it. There's a big difference.
Right. Now, some lenders will agree to a forbearance plan where, let's say, they'll give you 90 days you don't have to pay. And then over the following 6 months, you'll pay the arrears off in 6 equal monthly installments that come due in addition to your regular monthly payment. Still not a great option for a lot of people, not doable for a lot of people, but some may be able to avail themselves of that option. And again, if it's your only option, you might as well take it, because that's more time that you'll be in possession of the property, more time to work things out with the lender. Another great way would be is if they would take that 3 months or 2 months or whatever they're going to forbear and put it on the back end of the loan
Right.
at the end of the 30 some odd year term as a balloon, because that, by the time you're going to have to pay that off, chances are you'll have accumulated equity, you can refinance. It's not going to matter. It's small potatoes at that point.
Right. But it pushes it off to a time where at least you'd have breathing room to work on it.
Right.
But always it's like the old coffee can thing. If you just put some money in a coffee can every month for the next 15 years, you could pay that off if you didn't refinance at some point. So, and is there a third tip?
Right.
You got a third?
Yeah, very important tip. Very important tip. And this is for people who feel they don't have any option and the lender's not working with them and they're scared they're going to lose their property. Is if it's someone who it's their home, it's not an investment property, and they really want to keep it, then a loan modification could be an option for them. And there are a couple of ways to play that. One, if people need a lot of time before they have to start paying again, they can do what's sort of a strategic default. And that would mean not paying and letting the bank sue in foreclosure, hiring an attorney to defend the foreclosure, which could drag it out for years, at least a year in most cases, if they have a capable attorney defending the case on its merits, not just for the sake of delaying the case. Right. But if a case is properly defended, they take between 1 and 2 years typically to wind down. All that time, they don't have to pay the mortgage. They'll be much better suited to qualify for a modification toward the end of that process. Financially, that makes a lot of sense, because they're going to pay a lot less money over several years and actually end up in better shape. If
what
their
is the
credit
impact
rating
on their credit?
If their credit rating is not something they can afford to sacrifice, it is not a good option.
Okay.
A lot of people will not see it affect their credit, but most people will. It's not like not paying on a credit card. It doesn't automatically get reported, and a lot of lenders don't. I myself personally did a strategic default for my own reasons back in the 2008 crash.
Right.
And it worked out very well for all concerned. The bank in the end got paid every penny. There was equity. But it gave me a really good break for 3 years that I didn't have to pay that mortgage. It was phenomenal. But again, not a great option for everyone. Oh, and I wanted to note, my credit's back in the 700s now. And that was only a few years ago that wound down. So it won't kill everyone's credit, but you should assume that it will. And if that's not an option, as it isn't for a lot of people, then what you should be looking to do is get a loan modification as soon as possible. But as soon as you can establish income, because if you apply for the loan modification before you have income coming in, you're going to get denied. So for most people, that's going to mean waiting until they're back at work again, or waiting till their income returns to normal levels, then reaching out to the bank, and they would request something called a loss mitigation package. It's just a fancy term for a loan modification application. They call it a loss mitigation package. You call the bank, you ask for the loss mitigation department, and they can send you that package to apply. It's not a fun process. Requires a lot of paperwork to be submitted. If you don't have tax returns or pay stubs, there are usually things you can substitute for the pay stubs, not the tax returns. But that's going to be a great option for people who don't have any options right now.
So one thing I'm taking away from this is there's no free lunch. You have several paths, but at the end of the day, the federal government isn't bailing out your mortgage. You have three different paths you could go down, but the obligation is there. And you have to be aware of that, that in order to stay in the house, at some point, you got to pay for the house.
At some point. For others, there's actually a dark fourth option. And that is for people who are completely stuck, can't modify, can't reinstate their loan in any way. What they can do is their only choice, and that is let the bank sue them in foreclosure, defend the case as long as they can. They don't qualify for a loan modification. Eventually, they can short sell the property. The impact to their credit will be much lower if they short sell it. Short sale is much better on someone's credit than a foreclosure sale, for example. And that's not a great option. For a lot of people, just the stress of being in foreclosure, it's a lot to bear. Even if someone like me can demystify the process, it's still scary stuff for anyone.
You know, one option you didn't mention, and I think it's interesting to point out, is you haven't used the B word. You know what I mean?
The B word, bankruptcy?
Right.
Bankruptcy used to be, bankruptcy used to be a good option for attaining a loan modification through the bankruptcy court, through the trustee. And it might still be a good option, but it used to be a better one. It used to be, I'd see a lot of people get modifications in bankruptcy, and I used to refer bankruptcy lawyers for that reason. I'm not seeing as many modifications come out of there, but that's mainly an option now to delay a foreclosure sale. For someone who wants to stay in as long as they can till the wheels fall off, that'll further delay things. Another option to give people a way to reinstate their loan and get their bank to work with them, and it's a terrible option, it's a last resort, is I understand now you can take money out of a retirement account, penalty-free, and use that toward reinstating your loan. I don't recommend that. It's you know, really all you have to fall back on when you retire, but for people with no other option, that's something else to look at.
All right, I have one last question, and I don't want to, I appreciate your time. I know you're very busy. I'm worried that people, David, may say, I'm having trouble paying my mortgage. How the hell can I call a lawyer? And how do I meet with a lawyer? And can you get into the accessibility of lawyers, people in your business like you and you?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't speak for everyone else, but I'm sure I have plenty of colleagues out there who, like me, because of the circumstances, are giving people free consultations.
Thank you.
And this is a valuable consultation. If someone has comparable knowledge to my knowledge and experience in the area, it's worth paying a consult fee if they're not going to give a free consult. My firm right now, we are giving free consults. I am busy, but not as busy as I was before this lockdown. So I can afford to donate my time, and I've been very happy to do so. And I'm sure plenty of my colleagues are doing that as well.
On behalf of the community, I thank you and your colleagues. It is an honorable profession, and most, really every attorney that I know has switched to a format like this, where they're doing consultations remotely, whether they're using Skype or whatever product they're using. They're still seeing people, and people are able to take pictures of documents and send them. If they don't own a scanner, it's just not been a problem. So,
oh yeah, everything is completely accessible. I've been filing new lawsuits during this lockdown, and people are comfortable with being on the phone. I do face-to-face by Zoom or Teams or any of the other video conferencing software. Lawyers are just as accessible now as they were before the lockdown. Absolutely.
It's important that people know that. David, our time is up. Thank you so much. I know you're busy, and I thank you very much for sharing those tips with us. I hope if you are in trouble out there, concerned about the future of your mortgage, review these 3 tips, review them again, think about consulting with an attorney. It's not an option a lot of people would have thought. They might have called a mortgage broker, they might call their bank, but don't go into that kind of conversation unprepared.
Right, and if I could close with just one last tip, if anyone would like to take me up on a free consult, the best way to reach me is by my email. That's david@strausslaw.net, david@strausslaw.net. You will not be charged for the consult up to an hour.
Wow. All right, David, thank you so much. That's a terrific offer. I appreciate it. Thanks for
My pleasure.
being part of the community. Thanks for passing that and helping support local business and business owners. I appreciate it.
Thank you for helping people, Jonathan. It's very nice what you're doing.